And welcome to another edition of Zoomed In. I'm the host, Brandon Chapman. It's the first episode of season 2. Excited to have you here. And I've got Dante Ludlow. Yes, this is Dante from the Dantes Deals. So welcome, Dante. I know some people are going, wait, what's Dantes Deals? Well, that's what we're gonna talk to people about because it does look like you are in a clothing shop, and that's part of the story. But first, tell us a little bit about you. You are a sport management student, so that's why we're having you on. But tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and then we'll dive into why you're in a clothing shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at WSU since 2017, majoring in sport management. Currently, I'm finishing up my final internship requirement. I'm working with the WSU baseball team. Over the summer, I had an internship with the San Diego Padres as a minor league video intern. I moved all the way out to Indiana, but then COVID hit and there was no minor league season, so I'm back in Pullman. I grew up in Kirkland, Washington, went to Juanita High School. Growing up, I was always really into sneakers and fashion that went with that. And, I wanted to be able to buy really expensive shoes for myself and didn't have any other way to do it. So I started reselling from thrift stores. November 2013, I bought a pair of Air Jordan 1s at a thrift store for $20. And I was still learning a lot about shoes, but I knew that they had to be worth more than that. So I was originally just going to try to sell them to my friends, double my money or something, buy myself lunch, whatever. Nobody wanted them. So I was stuck with this pair of shoes, and my mom showed me how to list them on eBay. And some guy in New Zealand paid $150 plus shipping for them. So I guess I was 14 or 15. I was really, really excited. I took that money, went back to the thrift store, bought some more stuff, and so it began.
Well, Hunter, I was going to say, if you buy a pair of shoes for $20 and then sell them for $150, I don't care that you were only 14. I'd be excited at my age to be able to do that. Just out of curiosity, you never lived on the East Coast, have you?
No, farthest east I've ever lived is Indiana for the summer.
I just wondering because you said sneakers, and I can tell you I barely ever heard that word until I was living in Syracuse and was at grad school, and then that's where everybody said sneakers. So, but I guess if you're in the shoe business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about like Air Jordans, Yeezys, kind of higher end athletic shoes.
Yeah. So so you sold this pair of shoes, right? You made a lot of money, and then you kept doing that. Now I've heard the whole story already, but for the sake of our viewing audience, how did that grow? Because now you're talking about inventory and doing a lot of online business. I know you were featured in a few other things. I think the Evergreen might have had something for you. And then, of course, most recently, the Moscow Pullman Daily News did a feature article because of the store in downtown Pullman. So take us through that progression, and then why the heck you do a brick and mortar store when a lot of people are saying, hey, you're doing all this online business anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I resold that first pair of shoes, I took that money, went back to the thrift store, bought some more stuff, and kind of through the end of middle school and through high school, I played a lot of sports. I did a lot of other things. It was just kind of a side hustle. I made a few $100 a month, which at that age was fantastic. Helped me buy my first car and maintain that. Then when I came to college, I wasn't playing any sports or anything. I knew I'd have some more free time. So I brought the business with me to Pullman. At that point, the business was a 10 by 10 storage unit. And I did all of my eBay listings out of my dorm room. And so I would buy stuff in bulk online or go thrifting wherever I could, lay down a bed sheet on the floor of my dorm room, take the pictures, make the eBay listings, and then drop them off at my storage unit. And then when they sold, I would bring them back to my dorm room, pack them up, and ship them out of the Cub. It got to the point towards the end of my freshman year where if I had a big weekend, I would have to check out the move-in cart from the front desk and load it up with packages and push it up the hill to the Cub. So that was kind of an interesting experience. And then as I grew,
snow, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're going to be able to tell your kids someday, uphill both ways, pushing a cart,
Yeah, pushing a cart full of packages for sure. That thing got pretty heavy sometimes. And then, from there, I expanded. I got some bigger storage units. I actually had a small warehouse space for a couple of years. It was about 600 or 700 square feet, I think. The problem with that was that it wasn't climate controlled. And so as this thing grew and I started hiring my friends to help me, it got pretty brutal in the winters. I don't mind freezing my ass off for it, but having other people do it wasn't really going to work. So we had the big warehouse on one side of town, and then we had a climate controlled storage unit on the other side of town where we actually did the listings and then brought stuff back and forth. And I was doing that for a while. And then, I was stuck in Indiana when COVID hit, and I was actually working at a liquor store during the day and stocking shelves at Kroger at night because, I didn't have the job that I moved there for. But over the past couple years, I've always been kind of keeping an eye on commercial real estate listings in Pullman. And, unfortunately, the Daily Grind Coffee House closed down a few months ago, but I'm now in half of that old space. And when I first came back to move the business into it, I kind of just saw it as another big storage unit. I didn't have any plans to do brick and mortar. It was supposed to just keep being all online. But the reaction that people have had to, especially the stuff that I put out in the window, I had a storefront window, so I figured I might as well make a display. Just talking to all of my friends about it, it seems like there was a lot of demand for an in-person brick and mortar store. So basically what we've done is we've taken the front room of my space, kind of closed it off and created a small pop-up shop. We're going to be open every Friday during the school year from 3 to 8 p.m. We might play with the hours a little bit, but that's what we're going to start with. I don't necessarily know if we're ever going to get to the point where we staff it full time. That's a big expense and it's kind of a niche market, but creating a once a week event out of it, that's really exciting to me. Bringing in new items every week, making it completely fresh, and hopefully building a following of people who will come back every week to see what we've got that's new. Most of the items that are in the store are actually also listed on eBay, but having it in person and being able to touch it and hold it is obviously completely different. And so, as you can see behind me, I've got, tons and tons of stuff that goes way back, but we're hand picking a few hundred items that we think would best fit this market and putting those out every week in the storefront.
Now I see you're wearing what looks like a bomber jacket from the 90s, but
Yeah.
the starter jacket.
This is my Team USA 1996 Olympics tracksuit. I've got matching pants on as well. This is one of my favorite pieces. I break it out 2 or 3 times a semester and just wear it to class, just to see people's reactions. If anybody's had a class with me, they just know me as that guy who wears crazy stuff like this. But our grand opening is tonight from 3 to 8. So I had to break out one of my favorite outfits for it.
Now, hey, let's get a 1992 Barcelona, Olympics outfit, and then we'll talk.
That would be sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you talk about vintage stuff and being able to see and feel, but I mean, we're talking about vintage stuff. Like, so where do you draw the balance between you don't want anyone to touch it, right? You just look only, right? Because it is maybe it has some value to it, and you don't want to get it messed up and letting them as you say, feel and touch.
Yeah. There's a couple of pretty expensive shoes that I have up on a high shelf, kind of behind where I'm standing. So if somebody wants to see those, they'll have to ask. But besides that, I mean, that's kind of the point of the experience. Some of our higher end items are also kind of up on the wall, which is really cool. We've kind of created our decor just with our inventory, just by picking some of our flashier items and putting a nail in the wall and hanging it up. And so I think that we've created a pretty cool shopping experience, something that normally you'd have to be in a much bigger city to find. I've seen some stores like this in Seattle. You see them in LA and New York, but certainly nothing like this in Pullman.
Yeah, and I got to tell you from some stuff that I'm involved in from a town gown perspective, a lot is said from downtown business owners and others that we need more student foot traffic downtown, and of course one of the obvious counters to that is, well, you got to have something that is going to draw the students there, right?
Yeah.
Opening up a shop does not mean that the target market is automatically going to be students, but this does seem like it's going to hit a lot of those. And I can tell you, as a kid that was growing up in the 80s and 90s, some of this stuff appeals to me too. My wife might not like it if I brought some of it home, but it definitely appeals to a variety of people. And so, yeah, kudos to you on that. I think that's pretty neat. So even once a week, I think that's going to add something to the city. So from that town gown, thank you. And I think it's really cool to see a student who just, came up with a way to do something and has obviously worked hard doing it. But, I've got you here. So let me just shift gears a little bit. You said the Indianapolis experience didn't work out, and I'm sorry for that. I love minor league baseball, so when that season was canceled, I was disappointed in that. But you are doing other things, and you mentioned the WSU baseball team, and I would assume that deals with analytics, and you have a bit of a history with that. So tell us about it's former news, but tell us about the experience that you had last year with the team and doing this this conference. I think it was in Phoenix or Vegas or somewhere.
Yeah.
So talk about that, and then how you ended up getting connected to the baseball team.
Yeah, absolutely. So my one of the first kind of real big resume builders I did getting into the sports industry was the SABR Analytics Conference. That is the Society for American Baseball Research. I found out about it by writing, I think I wrote 150 letters to MLB team employees and mailed them all out. And an analyst with the Giants recommended that I do this student case competition. By the time he emailed me back, I had about 3 weeks before the deadline to apply for this competition. And your team had to have at least 4 people, and it was in Phoenix. So I found some friends who were willing to do it with me, created that team. I was able to get funding from ASWSU and from the WSU Sport Management program to help pay our entry into the competition. Luckily, one of the guys on my team, his parents actually owned a condo down there that they rented out as an Airbnb, and it was available. So, we were able to get that place, and really the only thing we had to pay for was food and our plane ticket to get there. That was a great experience. I got to meet a lot of people who I had written letters to and made connections with. We presented our project. It was a pitching plan. We presented to a panel of MLB team analysts. And so that was their feedback was really cool. Learned a lot from that experience. There were tons and tons and tons of experts in the field who were guest speakers. I believe it was a 3-day event. So that was fantastic. After coming back from that, it's kind of hard with only being available for the summer while you're still a student to apply for big league jobs. And I didn't have a lot of relevant experience at that point. But I found a home in Corvallis with the Corvallis Knights of the West Coast League. That's a summer collegiate league. And my experience in Corvallis was fantastic. I did just about everything for them as a small organization. I sold tickets, sold merchandise, worked with sponsors. I did everything. But my main role was their video intern. So I created their video live stream broadcast that they put out on Facebook of all of their games. So hopefully they can build on that going forward. I also had access to TrackMan, which is a radar system that they have because they play at the same field that Oregon State plays at. And so I was able to get a lot of data from all of the games and create some custom reports for the players and coaches based on kind of what they asked for, as well as, maybe giving them a little nudge towards being more analytical. Towards the beginning of the season, the coaches asked me for everybody's batting averages. And with that, I also gave them average exit velocities and some other TrackMan data and said, hey, let's look at all of this. So that was a pretty cool experience working with them and kind of growing in that sense. Then I finished up my coursework and actually walked at graduation this past December. About 2 hours after the ceremony, I was on a plane to San Diego to the winter meetings where I interviewed for 5 different positions with major league organizations. I had applied for about 80 different positions. It's definitely a grind to try to break into the industry. The winter meetings were insane. I don't know if you've ever been.
I've
Absolutely
been
crazy.
twice.
Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely
been
crazy.
twice.
Running
It's a
around back
meat
and
market.
forth. My very first meeting, it wasn't even an official interview. I met with the director of analytics of the Padres, and he told me he was going to meet me in the hotel lobby, and I thought I knew what hotel he was talking about, and
Oh
I
no.
had the wrong hotel, so I ran a mile in a full suit to get to where I needed to go, and that was my very first thing that I did at the winter meetings. So that was a
Why is
great
this guy
start.
all sweaty that just showed up? Like, why is he breathing hard?
Yeah, well, I mean, he knew what happened. I think he appreciated the hustle, so I mean, it kind of worked out. And I ended up with the Padres organization. Obviously with COVID, it wasn't really ideal. I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana in February, and the season got delayed. And then I was just kind of hanging out for a while, waiting to see what would happen. But honestly, it was a really good life experience to move to the Midwest. I got to go to a couple of Pacers games down in Indianapolis and a Pistons game up in Detroit before, the NBA got shut down and everything else. And just living in a different part of the country and experiencing that was pretty cool. And honestly, everyone with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps and with the Padres who I've interacted with were fantastic. And given the situation, they treated me really, really well. I would love to stay with the Padres organization. But we'll see what happens. It's still kind of hard to know what the availability is going to be with the potential shrinking of the minor leagues and everybody dealing with losses that they've had from COVID. So it's a tough market to enter right now. I am once again willing to relocate anywhere I need to go and do whatever I need to do to kind of break in. I will hopefully be leaving Pullman for a baseball job this spring, and I've hired some people who we're all working together right now, and hopefully we'll be able to keep running the shop, keep being open every Friday at that time, and especially hopefully if more students are back in the spring, then that could really take off. But either way, every time I've had to go somewhere for a baseball job, we've gotten better and better at running the business in Pullman and keeping it going. No matter where I go, I really like being involved with the Pullman community and being involved with Cougs, hiring Cougs. And, I hope to keep this business in Pullman for as long as possible, if not forever, while I pursue my baseball career elsewhere.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, I'm not sure, I don't recall if you touched on the WSU thing, but I know Brian Green is willing to do a lot of stuff, and analytics is one of those. And so having that kind of help is going to be tremendous for the WSU baseball team. I appreciate hearing, that you have, you anticipate trying to at least keep the shop going in Pullman. Boy, all I can tell you is I feel like, now, let me put my little dad mentor hat on for a moment. You're working really hard, and
Yeah.
I know it's a grind. I've been to winter meetings twice. Sometime offline, I'll tell you some really interesting stories about Ozzie Guillen, Peter Gammons, and another hopeful intern that thought that I was Peter Gammons' personal assistant. So I'll tell you, that those stories at another time. But yeah, it's an incredible experience. And when 2007, that was the year that I was broadcasting for the Asheville Tourists, which was a minor league team for the Rockies. We were actually owned by Palace Sports and Entertainment, which owns the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they owned the Detroit Pistons. And so I have some good stories from being under that ownership group, by the way. So we'll have to share those offline. But yeah, no, I think you're doing a great job. Your dating life must suck because let's just be real here. I mean, you're spending an absurd amount of time doing all this stuff. When somebody says, hey, let's talk about the traditional college experience, I'm not sure you're having that because you are go, 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 go.
No, I've never had that. When I was in regular classes, I took at least 18 credits pretty much every semester. I officiated 3 high school sports. I worked for the athletic department, and I ran this business. That's basically just what I do. My 2 main interests, my 2 main goals are, this eBay business and working in baseball. And so, really all I spend my time on. To touch briefly on what I do now for WSU baseball, I kind of left that out of my ramblings. I am actually our only student manager here for the fall, which with a roster of 55 players, which is a lot. And so I'm kind of running around doing everything. I work more with the pitchers. We have Rapsodo, which is another kind of radar. It measures spin rate, velocity, the break of the pitches, all of that. And so I run that for all of our pitchers when they're throwing bullpen sessions. And then during inter-squads, I'm in charge of all of our film. We actually lost power to our cameras during construction. So I physically have a tripod out on the field, and every time we switch from a right-handed to left-handed batter, I sprint across the field and set it up before they bat. So that's another, good
Which
hustle,
you can
I
do.
guess.
You've ran a mile and a half before to get to a meeting, so we know you can sprint across the field.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole baseball thing's got a lot more running than I signed up for. But we're doing all right with that now. Also taking all of the data. I've kind of gotten started on it, but haven't had a lot of time, so I'll probably be working on it more once practices slow down. I'm building a database using SQL, a structured query language. That's one of the programming languages that I've needed to learn. Getting into baseball, a lot of teams use it on the analytics side, and I took a class on it here at WSU that was fantastic. MIS 420, I'll give that a plug. Professor Featherman is fantastic. As a sport management major, going into a 400 level MIS class was kind of scary, but also I think that, as a sport management major, once you kind of realize what part of the sports industry you want to work in, you need to go out and acquire those skills. I'm not going to learn how to code from any sport management classes, so I've just got to figure it out. And, luckily I figured out what I needed to do while I was still at WSU and took some extra classes to kind of build a foundation, and then, building on that with other online resources. And, I'm definitely not a Stanford computer science major, which unfortunately I am competing with those people for jobs in this industry. But I'm kind of trying to position myself, one, as somebody who will outwork people. The eBay business is something that I talk about in interviews and just shows that I can work hard and dedicate myself to something. But I also, hope to kind of position myself as somebody who can maybe understand the fundamentals of the analytics and the hard coding and, creating and managing a database. But also knows a lot about baseball and can, work with the players and coaches. I've done that in all of my positions so far, and maybe kind of serve as more of a go-between than someone who, I don't see myself as someone at the big league level who's going to be creating a database for, a major league team that's way, way more advanced than, what I see myself doing at this point, analytics-wise. But, understanding how to at least do basic searches within it and, kind of the structure and how it was created, and then using that information to gain an advantage on the field. That's the ultimate goal. So I'm trying to be as well-rounded as possible and to see where it takes me.
Dante, I'm thoroughly impressed. I appreciate the hard work. I was out at a scrimmage last week for baseball. Brian Green always keeps the super fans up to date on what's going on. So I went out and watched a few innings in the warmth, and they gave me the roster. And Zane Mills, merchandising major. I'm just saying there could be a collaboration there. So
that's interesting. I've actually never talked to him about that. I didn't know he was.
That's what it says. So, and obviously had a great season last year until it was canceled. I thought Zane Mills came in and just did a fantastic job. So yeah, now you can connect with him. A lot of sport management and kinesiology majors. Just point that out. The college has quite a few of those. And we just got Zoom bombed. So my next appointment's here, Dante. Hey, Don, kick off for just a little bit, just for a minute. Just kick off just for a minute because we're on the same link. I'm just going to kick him out. Oh, there we go.
Awesome.
That was strange. Yeah. Hey, Dante, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I feel like, I came dramatically underprepared for this because I'm wearing this. I should have come with I have a retro, like 1994 Seattle Mariners starter jacket that is just fantastic, by the way. And I've kept that. There's no way I'm getting rid of that. And I should have worn that today, honestly.
Well, you'll have to prove it by coming down to the store wearing it. How about that?
Oh, wow. The challenge is on. I may just do that. So, Dante, thank you so much for joining me on Zoomed In. And boy, I will be certainly following your career. And, I still know a few people that are doing some stuff within the industry. So I will reach out to them as well and just say, hey, we got this jewel here coming from Washington State University that will outwork anybody. And by the way, he knows a little sequel. So how does that sound?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dante. Appreciate it.